Hi, and welcome back to Dollars and Dragons. Today we have our guest, Sebastian Yūe, and they are here to talk about some things that I actually just wanted to learn more about. And that's like the main goal of my podcast, actually, is this selfish desire to learn more from people smarter than me. So if you could briefly introduce yourself as to what you do in the tabletop industry and so that they have some context.
Yeah, hello, I am Sebastian. I use they, them pronouns. I am a writer, editor, and game designer. I work full time at Hit Point Press, and I also take on freelance gigs. I have been playing TTRPGs for 4 years, and I have been making them for 2 years. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you. I'm so excited about this. Uh, it's wonderful to work with you. If you're anybody who can hire a designer or a writer, you should definitely hire Sebastian. I guess I should say that about the entire Vineyard team, of course, but this is the first time I'm thinking to say it. Sarah Madsen is flooded with work, so you
Yeah,
could,
thank you.
yeah, definitely hire Sebastian. So let's talk about your role at Hit Point Press. We can start with that, and then how you came into that, and then also, if you want, briefly, maybe a little bit about you and how you started in the industry, because you've done a lot of different stuff, which you're a very like you're kind of a Renaissance person. Like you've done a lot of different stuff, and it's really cool.
Thank you. I do try to do that. Honestly, I can probably just talk about it in chronological order because that's what makes most sense to me. I started in tabletop because I took the Storytelling Collective's Write Your First Adventure RPG writing workshop. And because I really wanted to publish a D&D 5e adventure that I had written, and at the time it was just something that I had made notes on for myself. But I knew that there was definitely some sort of style guide or way to do things that I didn't know about. And so I was pleasantly surprised when there was a course for that. I did that, and it took me a while afterwards to actually publish the thing. But then once I was done, I was like, oh, this is really fun. I think I'm going to keep doing it. And so I just kept looking for opportunities to keep writing and keep creating, especially to collaborate with other teams, because that gave me a sense of the things that everybody else knew and all of the different roles that are involved in the publishing process. And then I started looking for jobs that would actually give me contract work. And I did that for a while. Like 2021 was really my big creative year because at the start of that year, I think it was the start of that year. Honestly, time is very difficult to keep track of these days. But around the beginning of the pandemic, I lost my day job, and then that gave me more time to create things, and it also meant that I needed to freelance to support myself at that time. So I think that I started a lot of projects in 2020 that came to fruition in 2021. And at the beginning of this year, 2022, I got my job at Hit Point, and I've been there ever since.
Amazing, amazing, super cool. And you had a previous career. Are you cool with talking about your previous career a little bit?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely can do that. I've done a few things.
Okay. Well, what did you used to do?
So before I was in tabletop, I was in marketing and communications. I worked for a big retail chain in Canada. So I was at their corporate office doing internal communications for them. It was an extremely corporate environment, and it was extremely hierarchical. And it wasn't something that was conducive to the way that I actually liked to communicate. So like that job paid me very well, but it was very difficult. It was a very difficult place to work. And before that, I did journalism. That's actually what my background is in. I have a master's degree in journalism. So I was doing journalism for a while. But the media landscape is likewise very difficult to find secure employment in. So it's something that I do less of now, but I have, like, if you're kind of familiar with the work that I've done over the last few years, you will find that I did do freelance journalism a fair bit.
Dope. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you're very I will just say you're very like punctual just as a person. So I have the like I feel like it was journalism that did that to you, or have you always just kind of been a really punctual person, if you don't mind me asking?
Honestly, I used to be late to things all the time, and then it got to a point where I was like, this is actually affecting my life and it's annoying the people who I like. So I'm just going to get good, honestly. There isn't really a better way to put that. I simply decided to
Get
get
good
good.
scrub.
Yeah, get good scrub. I mean, and I do think that, I mean, I don't necessarily, I think that like there are legitimate challenges to it. Like some people do have legitimate time blindness, but
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure that that was what I was experiencing. So I was just like, I'm going to get good.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people, honestly, and that's why I do the schedule book thing because I will lose track of time so quickly, no
Yes,
matter what I'm
I
doing.
need to put things in my calendar that I keep online, and if it's not in my calendar, I will not register that it's there, and that will be a
Mhm.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so cool that you're coming into tabletop with that sort of background. A different style of writing because normally when I talk to people, I guess besides no, maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. One moment. Let me think about this. The amount of or the variety of different industries that people work in as their actual job prior to becoming a game designer and or a freelancer full time generally is it's there's a pretty wide variety out there, because as you know you and I both know or maybe the listeners don't know, it's really a the freelancing market for tabletop is a lot of people who do it part time. They moonlight. They do a few projects a year, and those are like the people that you've read the books of. Like growing up playing these role playing games is like they got paid their 3 cents a word back in the day when they published that adventure that you ran for your table as a young child. So yeah, that's super cool that you're already involved in writing prior to jumping over to tabletop. What's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask what's been the biggest difference in culture, would you say, coming from journalism to tabletop?
I think that, well, freelance journalism is depending, it really depends on the kind of journalism that you're doing. If you're doing hard news, then I'd say the pace is very different. If you're doing hard news, you go out, you find the story, you file the story on the same day if you can. If you're doing something that's a bit more in depth, then you have time to sit down with people and do a bunch of interviews over a week. Then it's slightly different. But actually, I think that journalism did give me a lot of transferable skills. It gave me a really good sense of narrative, so I can just kind of cut straight to the core of what the story is, and then work backwards from that and figure out how to tell it to the game master, so then they can tell it, they can lay out the situation to the players, and then the players can do that and affect it in whatever way they want to.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, nice. I think I was very interested in talking about what you can, of course, in your role with Hit Point Press. And I know that you had previously put a bunch of your game design up on Itch and other places in order to sort of build your portfolio before you went through with Hit Point. What was it like, sort of getting that? Was it your official first job in tabletop?
Yes, this is. I consider myself to be very fortunate because, from what I can tell, there actually are not that many full-time, secure employment opportunities in this industry. As you said, the vast majority of people do tabletop stuff as freelancers in addition to their day job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the trend. What's your current role with Hit Point, and what have you worked on that you can
Uh,
talk about?
yes, technically, I am a writer, editor, and game designer. I do a bunch of things on the content creation side of things. I also am learning a bit more about the publishing side of Hitpoint Press. And so, if you pitch a project to Hitpoint and you get to the meeting stage, you'll get to meet with me. So that's been very fun. It's been cool to see how Hitpoint Press collaborates with other people in the space, and what kinds of projects are already in progress.
Yeah, it was actually kind of I was surprised about Hit Point's sort of relationship with creators, and that they are more of a community helper, it seems like, in a lot of respects. Like they are there for a lot of projects to get people to the next stage.
Yes, I would say so. It's one of Hit Point Press's values is to work with people in the community to create really cool things. And we know that there are a lot of people who are constantly creating. And if there is a way for us to help them, then we would like to hear from it. And it might not always be in the sense that, you want us to take your property and then build it out. That's actually very uncommon. But there are a number of different ways that people don't necessarily think about when they think about publishing a product. It could be that HitPoint can help with marketing. It could be that they could do consultations. It could be that we can help with the actual production of the physical product, or we can do fulfillment. There are all sorts of areas that we are capable of helping that are part of the publishing process.
Yeah, that was sort of a. I remember seeing Hit Point Press when I was first starting to like look around and get started with the Vineyard, and it kind of stuck out to me that Hit Point Press was involved in so many different projects, and I'm like, but they don't have a very large team. So I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it might also be confirmation bias because now you're looking for us, which is great. Please do. But yeah, like sometimes it is just support with marketing, or it is support with running the Kickstarter. We have a lot of experience doing that. And so it's experience that we would like to share with people. And if there is a situation where we don't have the capacity, or we don't have the right skill set, or we're just not a good fit for your project, we do like to recommend other avenues. So if creators come to us and we can't help them, then we like to give other suggestions. It's about kind of fostering talent in the space, and getting visibility for games and creators that really deserve it.
that's dope. Okay, I need to sit with that for a second. That's so cool. Um, hmm. hmm. What's a project that you've been working on right now that you can talk about specifically from Hit Point Press that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, honestly, depending on when this is getting released, I would talk about Shift. It's our in-house system. I was not involved in the design and development necessarily, but I'm working on one of the settings for it. And it has a very cool dice mechanic. It uses D4 through to D12, and a 1, 2, or 3 on any of the dice are a success. Therefore, the D4 is the best die, and the D12 is the worst die. And it's built so that you have a lot of freedom and customization, but the system itself is extremely straightforward and extremely elegant. Your powers revolve around traits, and you can choose what they do. It relies on you selecting keywords. And so you could have people who are playing the same class, but then the core traits that you get can look very different depending on the keywords that you choose for your character. So it's designed to be played in any setting and to tell a variety of different stories, and it's not tied to any one thing. And the quick start for that is, by the time this airs, will be up on rpgshift.com, and the Twitter is @shiftrpg, and we have a link to a Discord on there too. So there's already a thriving community, and we're having discussions about it. So that is absolutely something I can talk about.
That's so cool. Yeah, we're gonna include link in the show notes as well. And if you could please, are you NDA for the setting right now?
No, I don't. Not necessarily. I won't go into like a huge amount of detail, but it's something that we're working on. The main setting right now is Maelstrom, which is a kind of setting that is inspired by works such as the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, or the Lighthouse. If you've seen it, it's a seafaring setting, and there's a starter adventure included in the kit, the quick start. And so we have classes such as the Siren, the Beacon, like sea kind of themed. It's very, very cool. But the one that I am working on is one that's going to be set in the 90s, and it kind of revolves around like that kind of era. Kind of blends magic and technology in a really cool way.
Cool. That's so cool. I had no idea that you were working on this. So now I'm excited. Okay. Yeah, so this podcast comes out in 2 weeks, so that'd be, the end of November, ish, right before Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm gonna have to play this. Do you want to play with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Cool.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot on the podcast.
No, I will.
Sorry.
Yeah, I will. It's super easy to learn. You can pick it up and learn it in a few minutes. I was part of a playtest for it. I learned it in no trouble at all. It's also very, very easy to design for. It took me an hour to do a class for it, whereas with D&D it took me like a month to do my D&D class because I was kind of constantly thinking about it and the mechanics. Whereas with this one, I can think of I can kind of it's easy for me to come up with the concept and to put that in like mechanics language that makes sense.
Right. Do you think that there's going to be sort of a modular community around it in the homebrew? And is Hit Point going to be supporting that sort of activity from the community? What does Hit Point do for that?
I don't know what you mean by modular, but we do have some very exciting plans to foster community that we're working on. You'll probably see some of those in 2023. I'm not necessarily at liberty to divulge all of those, but the Discord is a really good place to start, and it's definitely something that we are interested in. We would really love to see people actively building things for Shift, and if there are third-party products, we will have tools and support in place for those.
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, I just meant like homebrew stuff. By modular, it just meant like homebrew, like whatever, like a DM skill situation or like what the situation was like allowing.
In terms of like a virtual marketplace.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to go quite that far to make a kind of Hit Point version of DM's Guild, but there will be ways for third-party creators to build in this system. Absolutely, it's something we really want.
Okay, that sounds super cool. Wow. Yeah, I guess podcast's over. I'm just gonna check out this. I'm just kidding. We're not done, Sebastian.
No, that's okay. But if you want to take a second to look up the Shift RPG on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right now. Shift RPG. Boop 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 boop. Dope. Oh, I love the art.
Yeah, the quality of art in honestly everything that Hit Point does is stunning. I can say that because I'm not directly involved in the art team. Not to toot my own horn over here, but the art for every single project is stunning, and it's one of my favorite parts of the process, especially when I see illustrations for things that I have written. It makes me very happy, and writing the art briefs and seeing the artists translate the image that I had in my head that I tried to get down on paper. They have a really good sense of what I was going for.
Yeah, that is a skill for sure, like being an art director. And I have just like basically dipped my toes in that direction, but I would not consider myself to be like a highly skilled art director. Obviously because I'm not an artist. So I think that's step one, right? Normally to being a good art director is normally that you're an artist. I know some great art directors who are not and have somehow figured it out. Like Lou Anders, but who is also like the editor for like a magazine for like over a decade, an award-winning editor. But that's always like kind of a need to do thing. Normally you like to have that artist come in to be the art director, to understand, really to communicate in that artist language.
Yes, I couldn't tell you anything about that because I don't know anything about art direction. All I do is I write, here is a description of the thing that I would like you to draw. The vibe is this, this, and this. Please I hope you understand what I'm going for. Thanks. That's pretty much how it goes for me.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I write my art briefs. I just provide reference images, perspective notes. I provide descriptions like you do, and that's about as good as I can do. I think that it's not necessarily a complex process, but it is one with a lot of nuance, and there's a high skill ceiling for it, for sure. So I'm very thankful to have brought on someone much more skilled at that than me for the Vineyard, Elaine. So Elaine can get to doing that because uh, they are much better than me at that for sure. But yeah, um, and I think that's kind of the way that I'm hoping, at least, a lot of the tabletop industry is going, perhaps in the next few years, especially with sort of the rumors and the talk of like one D&D, that we are going to see perhaps an influx of these different types of systems, because now these third-party publishers are being not necessarily pressured, but like if the OGL changes, then they have to, right, to survive. So I'm interested in the possibilities of everyone just doing more of their own stuff, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, I do not have line of sight into what is happening there. I think a lot of people are just waiting to see what happens with, as you said, the
Yeah.
OGL and the SRD.
Yeah, there's just a lot of speculation right now. So, and there's a lot of worry that if you have leaned too heavily into producing content solely for D&D, that like you're going to lose your entire market base because your customers are not buying into your other products. They're not interested in something that you have that isn't D&D. So,
well, we'll see.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I am interested to talk to you about your experiences writing on Itch, if you want to talk about that and how you got your start, and then like what your experience was like connecting with other Itch designers and writers and things like that, if that happened, and like what it's like to interact with your community through Itch.
Yeah, for sure. So it wasn't so much that I was writing for Itch; it was more that I was just publishing my games to that virtual marketplace. One of the things that I really like about tabletop is that the barrier to entry for creators is extremely low. You can write a thing and you can publish it. That's just a thing you can do whenever you like. And so Itch, what I wanted to do there was to create an original game that didn't already have an existing system. And so I signed up for the tabletop mentorship program in order to do that. And my mentor was Jess Burst of Hope, and they connected me with the community in Utopia, which is a space for people of color in tabletop who are interested in tabletop, and that was where I found some of my first streaming opportunities too. The folks over there are great; they are very creative, and we talk a lot about game design and such like, and it's fun to play games together. So that was really my introduction to like that kind of side of the indie space. I just like everything that isn't necessarily 5e will go there. I have a handful of things on there actually right now. But it's actually a really great space. I like that you can just publish it and it's there. You can also choose what percentage of revenue to get to give to the platform, because other retailers have a set percentage that they take.
Cool. Yeah, I think for the most part, people really struggle with where do I start and how do I get to writing and how do I get recognized? And the easy answer is just forehead, write more games. Like,
Yes, that's very important, and I understand that people are. It can be very difficult in terms of where do I start, how do I start. But the truth is that if you start, that is like once you start, you've started. So that isn't very helpful on a practical level. But I think that a lot of people need the encouragement to say like, yes, actually, this is a thing you can do. And honestly, I didn't know where to start either, which is why I looked for mentorship. I looked for the Write Your First Adventure course. I looked for places that would tell me how to start. But some people don't necessarily have to. And if you have an idea for a game, you can simply write it up and put it on there. And one of the other things is that you can write it up, put it there, say it's early access, then keep revising it and improving it if you like. Also, itch funding is a recent addition, and it's if you have a project that isn't necessarily Kickstarter size, but you want to be compensated for your work clearly, and you want to do some measure of crowdfunding, and you can post it as like a raw text file, and then say, well, I'm raising money so I can hire a layout designer to make it look nice. Then that's a thing you can do on itch too. I like that.
Cool. Yeah, that's so cool. Would you say that? Hmm. I guess you wouldn't be in the know about like how long Itch has been around and stuff like that. I should probably just have someone from Itch on the podcast talk about
Yeah,
that. But
honestly,
yeah,
probably. I've only been doing this for 2 years, so
yeah. No, that's super cool though, and it's a platform that I'm very interested in because it is sort of democratized or like really open up a lot of doors for people who I know got their start on Itch. I know a lot of the contributors that we hired for Vineyard actually either got their start on Itch or were, still publishing stuff pretty regularly on Itch. So it's a process, and it's very cool to see, especially with how new media works and how in the same way that perhaps YouTube has in large part democratized like media and news and things like that. You see that same effect in the tabletop industry. And it's a net positive, I would say. A lot more voices are out there now. Yeah.
yeah, it's true.
Hmm. What do you normally look for in, like, if you're looking at projects, what makes you interested in a project as a tabletop designer or writer? And not to say, like, as a freelancer, I should say, I should preface that, as a freelancer. Because obviously, like, if you're working for a point, like, you just kind of, get assigned stuff, right? But,
Yes, I think that if I like the concept of a project and it has strong themes, I like projects that enable people to tell like interesting, complex stories that are very character driven and very narrative driven. So like that I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I'm interested in that. Like I am writing a playbook for Apocalypse Keys, and that is an extremely emotion heavy system that is driven by how your character feels and like the tense and complex emotions that are coming from that. And so I was very interested in that project.
yeah.
I also can't resist a good villain, so as you know.
Yeah, I do know that. Don't worry, we're gonna talk about Vineyard. Um, but and your part in that. But I am interested if do you think that there's a relation to that in like kind of the writing that you did prior to coming into tabletop, and that you're very interested in narrative and like speaking to people and perhaps about people?
Yes, honestly, like one of the things that I really enjoyed about journalism was the sheer number of people I got to meet and talk to. And it did absolute wonders for my media literacy because I gained the ability to ask a question and then discern that the person had answered a completely different question that I did not ask, but had articulated it extremely well. And so, if you were less discerning, you just would accept that as an answer. And then later, if you go back to read it, you'd be like, "Oh, actually, that didn't answer my question."
Right.
All this to say that yes, I think so. I just am interested in people, and just if you talk to, I mean, you probably find this as a podcast host. If you get people talking, they'll tell you all sorts of things.
Indeed they will. Indeed they will. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I remember when I was looking for people to come on for that one-shot show I was putting together. And I remember my process where I was looking for people who were interesting to talk to and I enjoyed the work of more than anything else. And I remember seeing like your website and how you presented everything, which is of course all neat and organized, like a good little journalist. And I remember just watching like a clip of you from a one shot, and you had I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing you, but you had like a set. You had put together a rap or something.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's my snake
Yeah.
bard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I saw that and I was like, that person put that level of effort into like just some random like charity one shot or whatever. And I was just like, this is really impressive. And then of course, you had all your other stuff that you um used to work in. And I was like, okay, this is a person that's super highly professional and comes prepared and wants to give as much as possible to the success of the project. And that's like the impression I got right away. So um yeah, that's if we've never discussed this before, I don't think in those terms, but that's why we initially got connected, I think, and when I reached out to you at least.
I think so. I mean, I think I remember that I replied, you said, oh, are people interested in coming on for this show? And I was like, actually, yeah, I am. Let's see what happens with this. So yeah, I still don't have like a reel of any kind, but I do have clips that are on my website. In case people want to check out what they can expect from me in terms of performance. The earlier stuff is before I got my setup, so the audio quality is not great, but it's constantly a work in progress.
Yeah, and for you and your contributions to the Vineyard, do you want to shift to talk about that? Because this is actually something that isn't out, and there's no preview of it before the book is going to drop. So I did want to discuss it though because it is such an integral part what you're contributing to the project. If we want to discuss that.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, like my favorite thing about the Vineyard project is that you identified the strengths of your contributors and you leaned into that. So you have an actual lawyer writing the contracts. You have me, who is an actual journalist, building out the media culture of the setting, and that is something that I really appreciate and that has been super fun to work on. I love media culture in tabletop, and I think that more settings should have more signs of it. And I think what people don't realize is that media culture just refers to like information that people consume and how they consume it. So if you have like a kind of town notice board that people can put things on, advertisements for jobs or advertisements for sales at their stores, then that's media culture too. But I find that there isn't so much discussion of print and newspapers. So that was something that I really wanted to examine in that setting, especially in somewhere that is as rigidly controlled as the Vineyard as an organization. Propaganda is extremely fun to write, and I thought about how that kind of takeover would have looked because the Vineyard didn't always control everything, and so I had the opportunity to tell the story of how they pushed out the other media organizations and how they're running it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think as of right now, and not to put you on the spot on the podcast, but like as of right now, tentatively as a stretch goal, we have planned to flesh out 3 different adventures, and the second tier adventure is going to be about the printing press takeovers, which we can talk about later and come to an agreement about what you would like to contribute if you'd like to help me write that adventure and everything later.
Yes, absolutely. Honestly, like the printing press segment comes with various plot hooks, so there are those ideas that we could expand upon. Or if you were looking for something that is a completely different concept altogether, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think for what you've already submitted, I remember not only was it on time, which was great, but um, very punctual.
I
I think
mean,
you
yeah,
said it to be early, actually. You said it to be early because you were going to be out of town or something, and you wanted to make deadline. I remember that.
yes. I mean, well, I think that like communication is really the key to that because technically speaking, when you do sign a contract, you agree to the terms of the contract, and if there is a date on the contract, then that is something that you're obligated to fulfill. And if there are circumstances that are extenuating, then that's a conversation for you because there are usually I think clauses in the contract that say that it can be amended in writing or what have you, and some people are usually fine to do an agreement that you can get an extension or submit it later. But it's important to me to, as much as possible, to get things in on time.
That's the last your super punctual, I guess, mention that I'll make. I'm sorry to bombard you with that.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm glad. It's just one of the things that that I'm very cognizant of, that I would like for people to have as good an experience working with me as I do with them. So that's just one of the things I can do to help with that. Because I understand that project managers are keeping track of a million different things, and if my stuff is in the place where it is supposed to be, then that's one less thing for them to worry about.
Yeah, project management. Whew. Anyway, so about the vineyard and like the printing presses and things like that. Um, one of the things that we are exploring is definitely the propaganda and like the how can we how can we create things for game masters who are perhaps not as media literate. So having very well thought out handouts and like plot hooks with media literacy in mind, I think is very powerful. Because if I hand someone one pamphlet or one like poster that's supposed to go up in a town square or something like that, that can spawn sessions and sessions of content for people because they'll take that one thing that can either be like physical or it just seems very official, and then they can derive a lot from that because players are constantly, in my opinion, looking for something solid to latch on to.
Yes, players are also looking to pick holes in these things because they know that because they play tabletop to solve problems or to solve mysteries or to find out that people are not really what they seem, and to find excuses to attack things. So
Yeah.
if I hand someone an extremely polished, really beautiful looking pamphlet that advertises 5 different types of diamonds for resurrection and why you should buy all of them from the
Mhm.
Vineyard, then I hope that people would look at that and be like, that's complete nonsense, and I hate this, and I wish I could fight against these people.
Or join them. That's an
Or
option
join them, that's an
too.
option. Join them and get all 5 diamonds for the mere price of your own life. That's fine.
Yeah, just a bit of your soul and your morality. Not a high price.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, definitely. I also do think that like there is something to be said for options for characters to be villainous. That was a thing that I did in the very first adventure that I wrote. I wrote 7 different endings for it, and one of them is if this is the route you take and you kill every single NPC, I am going to make you earn your evil alignment. You have to kill the person who you were supposed to help, and if you got injured in the previous fight, they try to heal you, and if you can still kill them after that, then congratulations, you're evil. You can have the kingdom, whatever you want.
Nice. Um, yeah, for sure. I am really interested to see how people react to your lieutenant. If you want to briefly describe and like talk about the lieutenant and maybe some parts of the process about how you conceptualize them and like why you decided the way that you did with that lieutenant.
So like you say lieutenant, that's funny. I would say lieutenant. It doesn't matter. Yeah, so my lieutenant, if you prefer, is Verity Fiducia. I wanted to have someone who was extremely certain of the things that she believed in. I think it's interesting when you have an NPC who has been rewarded by an organization and who has benefited from the system, so to speak. And it's interesting because some of the adventure hooks give you opportunities to question her on that, and there's potential for her to become a recurring kind of character in the campaign. And if you choose to engage with that storyline, then there's opportunities for character development and for her opinions to change. And so I wanted someone. I also wanted someone from a laboring background, because that was just a more interesting background to me, than just doing someone who had worked in an office their whole life. I think that it it's a it's a story that you can. I wanted to make it so that you can sympathize with her and understand where she's coming from, but also ultimately be like, you're still serving these people, and you're doing a lot of harm to a lot of other people. So we have to figure out how to deal with you.
Yeah. I I read that dossier, and that genuinely like emotionally sent me over the edge when I was reading it because it was so good. But I really like the way that the character is constructed in such a way to leave so many possibilities for the characters to interact with this person, and to sort of weave a story that can be engaging and fun, and it isn't just like a simple opposition story where someone is in front of you, you have to kill them. This is someone who is involved in the process of propaganda for the Vineyard. And the way that they fit into everyone's table can be immensely different, depending on who the players are.
Yep. And I think that like motivation is central to any NPC, I think. And this one really like she's someone who had to fight to get where she is now. And I think that after you do that much work, you are not going to give up that kind of position easily. Although motivations, as with anything, can change depending on how the party goes about it.
Dope. Okay. Do you want to talk about Uncaged Goddesses?
Yes, I absolutely can. I was an editor for that project.
Yeah, let's do it. Tell me about it. What was the project like working on it? And which parts did you work on, and so on and so forth?
Yes, so it has like Uncaged Goddesses was actually one of the smoothest projects in terms of communication and project management that I have ever been on. They had a very set, very organized timeline and structure. Announcements went out in the Discord when milestones were coming up, and also through email because the Discord was actually optional. The entire team at Unseelie Studios did extremely well, and they told me exactly what I needed to do and when I needed to do it by. So my role was proofreader. I filled out an application because that included an editing test. They really wanted to bring people on based on their capability rather than the extent of their portfolio. So I felt like that gave everyone a fair chance to apply and be accepted. And I chose proofreading because that was something that I hadn't necessarily done for tabletop before, but I was curious about, and I wanted to have the experience. And so there were 3 of us doing proofreading, and we each got assigned 7 adventures to look over. And so these were adventures that had mostly been laid out and had as much art in as we had. So it was things like making sure that the language adhered to the style guide, making sure that the sentences made sense and were grammatically correct, but also things like, is this line too close to this art piece, and is this a single word on a line by itself? So that also I learned was part of the proofreading process that I hadn't expected.
Yeah, they're called orphan words, right? Orphan words.
Yeah, or widows. I'm not a layout designer, so I don't know the technical terms for these things. But and honestly, all of the adventures were spectacularly written, and they were like before they reached me also. So yeah, but it was a great project to work on, and it did incredibly well. It won gold for best adventure, so I'm happy to have contributed to that.
Yeah, dope. I think that I'm just blown away, honestly, by like that project, and I have it on my shelf. I won't roll over there. Our listeners aren't watching us on video, but like I love how high quality that product is, and just how many different contributors were a part of that. It's mind blowing to me that a project that huge was run by just an independent, like very small studio like that. So
yeah, honestly, the whole team did a fantastic job, and we honestly have some of the best creatives in the industry that worked on that.
Yeah. I think I have like 4 or 5 Uncaged Goddess contributors in Vineyard, but
Yep, honestly, probably something like that. I mean, you
yeah.
did say, I mean, you also assembled a very powerful team yourself, so I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, because the Uncaged series was something that had been around since before I started making games and getting involved with tabletop creation. So I saw that was an opportunity, and I was like, well, I am not familiar enough with the lore itself of 5e to to write a whole adventure myself that is centered on that, but I would love to be involved in some capacity because I know this series has a great reputation for being high quality and well managed. So I'm glad that I got the chance to do that.
Right. And if you don't mind, let's talk about Storytelling Collective, your role there. And I know you briefly mentioned it, but if you want to talk about like your process initially and like your evolution to becoming an instructor, if you're okay with that.
Yes. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that I took a course with them back before it was the Storytelling Collective. It used to be the RPG Writer Workshop. So I took the Write Your First Adventure course simply because when I did when I put RPG writing courses through a search engine, it came up and I was like, oh, like there's a course for this. I'm not surprised because honestly, there's a course for everything, but I was happy that there was. And so I took that. I had a really great experience. It's an online thing. It's self-directed learning, and then new lessons unlock every day. And there's a really great community behind it. So people can discuss the day's lessons and keep everybody updated with their progress and kind of get excited about the thing that they're building. And so I tried to do that. I did a tweet of my progress. I think I did a tweet thread and where I just added onto it gradually about what I was making. And I had such a good experience with that. And then I heard that there was an opportunity to join the team as an instructor, and I applied for that because I was like, well, maybe by this point I have some kind of wisdom to share. That would be great. And so I ended up writing a lesson about studying the source books and style guide, which I'm sure is not necessarily everybody's favorite topic, but it's valuable and people should do it. Even if you've read it hundreds of times, it's really useful. So yeah, I make no apologies for that.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those necessary evils, isn't it? So that everyone is like on the same page, especially for writing under a certain system, we have to be speaking the same language. So
Well, yeah, I mean, there just is mechanical syntax and language that any given GM is going to be familiar with, and the more that you can, in technical terms, communicate that, then the less time the GM has to spend picking up a book and looking it up
right. Yeah, and absolutely.
and
And
taking
then
away role play of the session. You can get on and
yeah.
keep playing the game and keep telling the story you want. So it's actually really important.
Yeah. And do you take mentees right now, or are you not part of the mentor program?
Tabletop mentorship
Yeah.
myself. Oh, that's a different program. I did. That just ended. I think that formal mentorship is something that perhaps I am not necessarily the best at, but I think that in terms of questions and in terms of just helping out people in an informal way, I love to do that.
Okay. Cool. If someone was to look at your uh, portfolio, if you will, and they're checking you out, as I'm sure they will, because links to Sebastian will be in the description. What do you think that they should take a look at? What are you most proud of at this moment in time besides Uncaged Goddesses?
Oh, honestly, that's a really great question. I think that people should take a look at, in terms of what I am most proud of. I'm still actually very proud of the adventure that I wrote first, Lake of Secrets. Definitely looking back on it now, there are definitely some things that I could have done better, but considering it was my first one, I think it's pretty okay. I'm also pretty proud of Corpus, which is an unofficial supplement for Rowan Rook and Deckard's Heart, the City Beneath. That one is up on Itch. I would also say College of Celebrity, that's my Bard college. That was a lot of fun to write. I think that not enough people realize that my game design philosophy is in fact solving problems that I myself have created. Because that Bard college has the ability to make a concentration save using their charisma stat rather than their constitution stat. And the reason for that is that my first tabletop character was a bard, and I looked at the character sheet without having read any of the rule book. I saw that there were no skills associated with constitution, and I made that my dump stat. He has a constitution of 7. So that was a problem that I needed to solve, and I put it in there in case anyone else had the same problem. It's highly unlikely, but any
Yeah.
given bard is likely to have a higher charisma than constitution.
Wow. You min-maxed your way into a terrible character
I
design.
I really did. That was a terrible choice, but I didn't know any better.
Yeah. That's how we learn though.
Yeah. I hadn't read the book at the time, so honestly I can attest, read the rule book. Like, then you'll
Yeah.
build a character that won't just die.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And I have to ask, what hit point press products or things are you currently working on, and how much can you talk about them if you would like to talk about them a little bit?
Honestly, I'm currently working on all sorts of different things. I have like, Hit Point Press does the Big Bad booklet. That was honestly one of the first things that I did in my role, and so the one that I wrote a few months ago is coming out very soon. I'm excited
Ooh,
about that. Yeah,
okay.
it is somebody who she has a problem with gods. And the gods banished her girlfriend, with whom she was scheming to kill the gods. So first, in order to do that, she has to get her girlfriend back.
Mm,
Yeah.
that sounds really dramatic.
It's fun. It's super fun. So keep a lookout
Yeah,
for that.
fantastic. Um, Last thing I think I wanted to talk about or had tentatively prepared. Let's talk about Big Bad. You okay with talking
Yes,
about Big Bad?
absolutely. I can talk about Big Bad Con. Yes.
Let's talk about it. What was your experience like? You were a scholar this year, so
Yes, I was. I was a POC scholar, so it was part of a program specifically for people of color in tabletop because it's that kind of it's that kind of really great affirmative action that I like to see that directly leads to success among marginalized groups of people, and it was fantastic. It was really, really good to be there. I wouldn't have. It's not a convention I would have gone to had I not received the scholarship from it. And it was an incredible opportunity to meet other people and to like not only to network but just to connect over like shared experiences and to meet people whose work I had been admiring from a distance. The number of people I went up to and was like, "Oh, hi! I think we're mutuals on Twitter, but we haven't spoken. It's really cool to meet you." Like stuff like that.
yeah, that's how people recognize me at Gen Con. It's like, oh, you're Friday from Twitter. It's like that.
Yes.
That was a weird thing, but it's something that happens now, I guess.
Yeah, I
But
mean everybody in this space is kind of hustling, and so they kind of have to put themselves out there. So most of the attendees I had heard of on Twitter if they were actively creating things.
yeah,
Yeah, there was a POC dinner, which was a kind of celebration for ourselves in the space, and then there was a meet and greet, which I met people to offer opportunities, and I met people who could offer opportunities, and that was really valuable too. The organizers did a really great job, and it's about helping people of color to get a foot in the door in terms of professional work in the industry.
yeah, it is definitely a white-dominated industry, and perhaps will be for the near future. But
I hope not.
yeah, we're making progress, right? Moving in the right direction a little bit. But yeah, I did notice that, and I'm relatively new to the industry as you are, so um, I think some things change a lot slower than I think we would like them to. But I think the culture altogether of the industry has changed a lot since 2015 in fifth edition. So I think it's affected everyone in the tabletop industry quite a bit as far as like creating more space for different types of people in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
I think that it's not necessarily about creating more spaces, that we're creating our own spaces, and we just want to kind of share the work that comes out of that with everybody. And we actually like the internet means that I mean people who have always been creating can put it out there now.
Damn, you're right. Very true. Okay. Hmm. I'm just sitting with what you said there.
Yeah,
Just
it's okay.
yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, that might look different with the death of Twitter, but that's like a whole separate
Oh
conversation. I'm
gosh.
not going anywhere, so
Yeah. I can't give up Twitter.
no, I
I'm sorry.
can't. Like
Yeah,
I've only just built my platform here. Really, I'm not leaving until it becomes unusable.
it's a part of my marketing plan for for the Vineyard, so I can't, unfortunately. Um, and it's really like something that I personally really enjoy creating content on. So, um, I
Yes.
don't. It's personally built for copywriters like you and I. So I mean, like, why wouldn't we go somewhere else when this is the style of writing that we enjoy doing? You know.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. That being said, I think it's a good time to wrap after talking about all that. And we can find Sebastian at such and such places if you'd like to fill in the blanks here, Sebastian, and talk
Uh,
about some of the things you're doing right now.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Sebastian Yue, so SebastianYue, all one word, on Twitter. I'm Sebastian Yue pretty much everywhere. So if you search my name on the DMs Guild, or I'm also at sebastianyue.ca because I'm based in Canada. So like my website has links to all the various things I do, so performance, game design, editing, all of that you can find there. And again, I'd like to plug Shift again. So if you're interested in trying a fun new tabletop system that Hitpoint Press has developed, follow Shift RPG on Twitter to keep up, and join the Discord. It's gonna be great, honestly. Like there's already a thriving community who are interested in building things, and we are very excited about it.
All right. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest on the pod. And yeah, thank you to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.